Welcome to a play-by-play review. I am your host Henry, and I can happily report that I am not nearly as sick as I was last week. I'm still not quite over my cold yet, but I'd say I'm like 90-95% of the way there, luckily, which is nice. So this will be more of a normal episode in length, hopefully, unless I suddenly start like losing my voice or something halfway through this. But right now I feel good, and hopefully as the days go on after this, I might actually be able to get an episode done this Friday or Saturday for something not football related because I want to do it. I've just been otherwise occupied, as I said last week, with personal stuff and then being sick. But right now, feeling good, and we got another just absolutely insane week of football that happened this past week. This season is just on everything. It's ridiculous. It was really fun. Don't get me wrong, it was crazy, but yeah, this season makes no sense, and I love it. I love it so much. So some overall notes before I get into specific games, as per usual. Um, Pittsburgh, Green Bay, Chicago, and Atlanta. So the Steelers, Packers, Bears, and the Falcons were all on buys this week. This is the first week of buys. I think it was last year the NFL implemented a thing, or it might be this year. I'm not 100% sure. Where they don't have buys and they don't have like week 4 and like week 14 buys or whatever. So like the buys are like more teams are going to be on buys, but they're not going to be as early or as late as they were in the season, which I greatly prefer. I think like having a week 4 buy was really stupid, to be honest, because it was only after 3 weeks, and like come on, you don't need a buy after 3 weeks. I don't really know if you need a buy after 4 weeks. Well, I think some teams do. The Ravens definitely need a buy, but we'll get to the Ravens in a bit. But anyway, um, other notes on this week: there's a lot of blowouts and a lot of nail biters. Some come from behind victories, and some games that were just were not close in the slightest. Um, there, I feel like there were a few that were like one or two score games that were like never really close. I'd say where I mean, I'll get to the Commanders and Chargers in a bit, and that's like one of the few where it was a multi-score game at the end, but it was like it wasn't a blowout. I'd say that's where I would go. Um, other notes, all the flags were thrown this week. Like I'm gonna take a sip of water here, and I will probably get flagged by an NFL referee for it because oh my goodness, there were a lot of penalties. Yeah, it was like it was rough. Then there are also some non-penalty or penalties not called that I think should have been called. We'll get to the Monday night game here later, but yeah, is yeah, and just to go along with that, a lot of sloppy football. Um, a lot of turnovers. I feel like this week wasn't as crazy in terms of special teams as like it has been the past few weeks, but it was still something to say the least. I'm also gonna do something where this week I'm gonna do like an early season awards or like my early season front runners for the like main like the MVP, offensive and defensive player of the year, those awards. I'm gonna do that at the end, just so I can get my summaries of all these games through first. So the first game, the Thursday night game, was the San Francisco 49ers going into Los Angeles to take on the division rival Los Angeles Rams. And this is one where the Niners were without most of their offensive starters. It was another Mac Jones game. Brock Purdy, I guess, re-aggravated his whatever it is ankle injury, I think, um, after last week's game. So coming into a short week, McCorkle Jones, as I think well, his actual name is Matthew McCorkle Jones. Um, I believe that's what it is. He took the reins once more going into LA, and surprisingly enough, the 49ers came away with a victory. They won 26-23, and it was a game where they kind of dominated the first half. They were up 17-7 going into the halftime, and it was a little surprising to see the Rams come in looking pretty flat, especially against a division rival. But they fought back in the second half. Stafford had a good game, 389 yards and 3 touchdowns. It's just kind of the typical Matt Stafford staff line. But it's Mac Jones. He looked pretty good. They took it into overtime, and Niners eventually pulled away with a victory. And I'll get to the defining play there in a second. But like, I'm very impressed with how Mac Jones is leading this offense. And I know there's the whole, like, people were saying that Kyle Shanahan wanted to draft Mac Jones back in 2021 at 3 overall, but got overridden and was saddled with Trey Lance instead. How much of that is true, I don't know. But he's got Mac Jones now, and Mac Jones is looking pretty good in the Shanahan system, which is, I mean, it's kind of the meme of like he could throw just any average Joe in the Kyle Shanahan system as a quarterback, and they could still put up 20 points at least. But like seriously, it's impressive without like pretty much any wide receivers. Like all of their top wide receivers were just out. Kendrick Bourne was their starting wide receiver basically, and he turned into prime Randy Moss basically. He went 10 catches, 142 yards. And yeah, it was surprising to see the Niners just kind of look as dominant as they were with how many pieces they were missing on the offensive side of the ball. As for the Rams, they took it into overtime and they had a decent chance at winning it. They were inside, I think either inside the red zone or just outside of the red zone after the Niners had kicked a field goal, and it got to a 4th and 1. But instead of the play calling here was a little confusing on the 4th and 1, because instead of putting it in the hands of Matthew Stafford whatsoever, they ran a handoff like through the tackles to Kyren Williams, who had already fumbled on the goal line earlier in this game. So I mean, he did kind of redeem himself in overtime with a really good catch for like 30 yards, but still, I don't mind. I don't mind at all going for it on 4th and 1 there. I actually really like the idea because it's like you get it, and like they're trying to win the game, not just play for the tie, and I totally get that. I just did not like the play call. I thought taking the ball out of your best offensive player's hands, and that is Matthew Stafford. Like you could argue Puka Nacua is the best guy on the offense, and I could definitely see that, but like Stafford is the guy you have. Like he is still just incredibly good at football, and taking the ball out of his hands on a 4th and 1 on literally a win or lose, like you don't convert it, you lose the game type play is a little surprising for me. But again, I don't mind the play call. I don't mind the decision. I just don't like the play call. But anyway, with that, the 49ers of all teams are now 4 and 1, while the Rams fall to 3 and 2. The Niners are somehow one of the best teams in the NFC. This whole season is just kind of wild. We're just getting started with it this week. So next up, we go to the early game on Sunday, since we're doing we have like 5 weeks in a row of international games. Last week was Ireland. This week was the first of the London games with the Vikings, who stayed over across the pond after their win in Ireland. Went into London and defeated the Cleveland Browns by a score of 21-17. This was Dylan Gabriel's first start of the season after some really poor performances on Joe Flacco, who I will elaborate on here soon. But it was Dylan Gabriel's first start, and I mean he was fine. I'd say he looked better than Flacco did in the offense. Not that it's a very high bar there, but Dylan Gabriel was okay. But it's his first career start against a good defense, especially a Brian Flores-led defense, and Flores is just this psychopath as a defensive coordinator. Like he'll just do some insane blitz schemes, and having that be your first matchup is kind of crazy. But it was an okay game. It wasn't amazing. Quinshon Judkins had a good game. He's like, after a couple of quiet weeks to start the season, he's really started to turn it on. I mean, he did have the one game suspension at the start of the season and then a pretty quiet second week, but he's really starting to show up as his own and like really take over this offense. And, you know, for Cleveland, who's had Nick Chubb as their running back for a while, they've been a very run heavy offense for a good bit. You know, transitioning into Judkins shouldn't be the hardest thing in the world to do, and he's taken the ball and run with it literally and figuratively pretty well so far. In the end, though, the Browns did lose. I just don't think they have enough talent on both sides of the ball to, you know, really compete this year. And, you know, I mean, it could develop. Their rookie class is actually shaping up to be really good. Like Mason Graham and Carson Schweschinger, especially, are like looking really good on the defensive side. Judkins, obviously, on the offensive side. So it's, you know, you could give the Browns a little bit of time and they can actually start shocking some people later on in the season, especially if they keep rolling with Dylan Gabriel and, you know, he develops more as a quarterback. We could see the Browns making some noise, but right now they're still a bit, it's going to take a bit. But yeah, as for the Vikings, I mean, again, they're starting Carson Wentz. So they obviously would prefer to start McCarthy here and, you know, get him develop more. But Wentz was fine. He's definitely looked better than he did, you know, the past couple of years in like Kansas City and Washington. Obviously, it helps having Justin Jefferson and Jordan Addison to throw to. In this game, also Jordan Addison was benched in the first quarter because he like missed a team workout or something, or like a team walkthrough. So, you know, good on him. That was entirely sarcastic. That was very boneheaded move. And Addison also, you know, just came back in the second three quarters and just went absolutely ham, catching the game-winning touchdown pass along with it. Justin Jefferson also went 7 catches, 123 yards. So, yeah, these guys are pretty good at football, to say the least. Vikings have a very good wide receiver core. And so, I mean, hey, the Vikings are 3-2. They picked up a couple wins over in Ireland and London. So, you know, I think they're going on a bye this week, or this upcoming week. So, it's, you know, pretty good little road trip there. Hopefully McCarthy for them can get healthy again. And, you know, he does more like what he did in week 1 rather than what he did in week 2. So after that, we go to the 1 o'clock slate of games. And these were a couple blowouts, a couple close games. First one I'm going to go over, just descending down the ESPN game list, scoreboard list, is the Raiders going into Indianapolis to take on the Colts. I should also say, Vikings are 3-2, Browns are 1-4. Let me just, you know, say that before I forget. So the Raiders, Colts, and this is one of the blowout games. This was, in fact, the biggest blowout game as the Colts handily defeated the Raiders 40-6 in a game that was just never close. Geno Smith looked bad. He threw 2 interceptions in this game. And yeah, it was just the Raiders offense couldn't get anything going and their defense was just kind of laying down to die as Indiana Jones and, well, more Jonathan Taylor just kind of ran all over them. I don't know how long Geno Smith is going to last as a starting quarterback with how he's playing. I mean, I don't really know who the Raiders could turn to, especially given how much they invested in Geno. Well, I think it was a 3rd-round pick, but still, it's more than nothing. And I don't think they'll bench him like right now, but like he's looking like he's kind of cooked at the moment. Geno has not played well at all. Genty looks fine. Ashton Genty for the Raiders, he looks fine. I think he'll be good, but he doesn't really have much of a team around him at the moment. The Colts look good. Their only problem is that their kicker, Spencer Schrader, had suffered a season-ending injury in this game, which sucks. I think the Raiders punter AJ Cole also got injured in this game. I don't think his was season-ending, but like here's your weird special team stuff going on. Well, this time it's not in the fun kind of weird. It's the injury kind of weird, which is not fun, not at all. But other than their kicker going down, this is pretty much perfect for the Colts. I mean, Daniel Jones looked a lot better. Jonathan Taylor is leading the NFL in rushing and looking really good at it. He's been very, very solid so far. Their defense looked good in this game. So yeah. I think that's all I can really say. It's a 40-6 rout. I mean, I think there's only so many ways I can say, yeah, the Raiders sucked this week, and the Colts look good. So the Raiders fall to 1-4. They've lost 4 straight after winning in week 1. The Colts are now 4-1, and I don't know. I think they're technically now leading the AFC. Like, period. They're tied for the top in the AFC, I should say, which I don't think anyone was expecting. I certainly wasn't expecting this at the start of the season, but I mean, hey, they look good. Their offense is looking really good because it's looking very balanced. Daniel Jones, outside of last week against the Rams, and even then it was still a close game. And you could say the Adonai Mitchell, Deshaun Jackson fumble was cost them the game. You could say that, maybe not, but I mean, Daniel Jones did throw 2 interceptions that game, so it's like he had one game where he looked more along the lines of old Daniel Jones, but 4 out of 5 games he's looked like a really good quarterback, or a very competent starting quarterback that doesn't turn the ball over is a very good sign. And when you have that along with Jonathan Taylor being one of if not the best running back in football this year, it's pretty good. It's a pretty good sign. So next up is the New York Football Giants going into New Orleans to take on the Saints. And Saints, who are winless at this point. And this was Jackson Dart's second career start after winning against the Chargers last week. And it was one where it was close in the first half. The Saints were winning in the first half, but the Giants were certainly keeping it close. And then the second half happened. And it was a fun game for, the first half, the back and forth game. And then the second half happened. And then the Giants just kind of forgot how to play football. They turned the ball over 5 times, and I think all of them were in the second half. Cam Scatterbo fumbled, and that fumble was returned for a touchdown. Jackson Dart threw a couple interceptions. He also fumbled where he basically started scrambling, tried to make a cut on a defender, and then basically just forgot to bring the ball with him, which is, not ideal. I mean, the Saints played fine. Rashid Shaheed had a huge touchdown catch. But, I mean, it was like they weren't like spectacular. But, I mean, hey, they got their first win. Kellen Moore got his first win as a head coach. So I'm not going to rag on the Saints that much. I've ragged on them a bunch this season. But, I mean, hey, I've kind of said it a little bit where they're obviously not going to be a good team this year, but they've been playing hard in most of their games. And, it's playing like that can win you a game like this, where it's, you keep up with your opponent. They basically led most of this game, but, you keep your, keep your distance with your opponent, or no, that's kind of the opposite way of saying it. But, you keep it close with your opponent and you play it hard, and, you can force mistakes like what happened in this game. And, the Saints forced a ton of mistakes from the Giants, and that won them the game. So you play clean football, you usually wind up winning the game, and it's pretty good for Saints. I mean, again, I don't think they're going to be succeeding too much this season, but a win's a win, and I think they look more than solid doing it. As for the Giants, it's losing to the Saints is not good. Jackson Dart still needs a bit more time in the oven before he's really ready. Obviously the pass rush is really good, but got to give Dart a little bit more time to get into the swing of things in the NFL. I mean, every rookie has one or two of these games where they, they really seem to stink up the bed. Except for really Jaden Daniels. But yeah, it was a rookie performance from Jackson Dart, and really the whole team. But I certainly think the Giants could bounce back from this. I don't think they're going to be turning the ball over 5 times every game, but I wouldn't count on them to do too much this season with how they've been playing so far. They are now 1-4. Saints are also 1-4, so I'd say it's the Giants still certainly have talent on both sides of the ball, but their execution is lacking at the moment. So moving from one NFC East team to another, the Dallas Cowboys go into New York to take on the New York Jets. Jets, Jets. I think I did that before. I don't really know why I'm doing it. I'm not even a Jets fan whatsoever, but yeah, I know. I just kind of do that sometimes when introducing the Jets. But yeah, this is one where the Cowboys won 37-22 in a game that was not all that close, ever, to say the least. The Cowboys stormed out to an early lead. Their offense is looking good this season. I will certainly say I'm going to eat my words a little bit on not Brian Callahan, certainly not Brian Callahan. Brian Schottenheimer. He's been doing a pretty solid job, all things considered, so far on with the Dallas Cowboys. I mean, they're 2-1 after this game, but I was very uninspired with the hire. In my preview, I was not very excited. Not very interested in Schottenheimer as a head coach. I didn't think he was going to succeed. And while I don't think the Cowboys are amazing this year, I think they have a lot of flaws. They're playing well overall. I feel like that, outside of the Bears game, I'd say the Bears game was pretty bad, but they're as the season's progressed, they're looking more complete as a team, which I feel like they're looking a bit better top to bottom than they did under Mike McCarthy, which as a Commanders fan, I'm not happy about. But I mean, this could change, in the next couple of weeks, but going into a, you could say it's a quote unquote trap game. I'd say it's a little early for a trap game, but especially because the Cowboys were 1-1 going into this, but it was one where the Cowboys could certainly underestimate their opponent and lose. But they didn't. They played good football all the way through. They just completely dominated the Jets. And it was an offensive attack for the Cowboys that was not one-dimensional at all. Again, I'm also eating my words on Javonte Williams. He's having a career revival right now through the first 5 weeks. He's I think he's third in rushing yards in the NFL at the moment. And he's I'm not saying he's last year's Saquon Barkley or anything like that, or even this year's Jonathan Taylor, but he's provided a very good dynamic for the Cowboys on offense that they've been sorely missing really ever since 2020 Zeke Pollard, Ezekiel Elliott, Tony Pollard, that sort of dual backfield that was, it was pretty good for a while, up until Zeke started to just deteriorate, and Tony Pollard was, okay, but didn't really thrive in the starting role. So, it's having a guy who can, go for 16 carries, 135 yards and a touchdown against the Jets is something they've been lacking for a little while. And that actually makes the Cowboys offense pretty dangerous. I'm still skeptical about their defense. They played okay in this game. Actually, they played pretty solid in this game, but it's the Jets. So it's not too much of a competition there. Sorry, Jets fans, but there's a reason why the Jets are 0-5 at the moment. It was just overall Cowboys look solid. Jets, yikes, to say the least. I don't want to say Aaron Glen's going to get fired after one season, but he's not been inspiring so far, and this Jets team just looks bad on every level. So I don't really know what they can do to fix things because, especially on the defensive side, where it's supposed to be the Aaron Glenn masterclass, like that's supposed to be his strong suit. Even if his defenses in Detroit seem to struggle a bit the past couple seasons, yeah, I don't know what they can do here. It is rough. What's also rough for another NFC, well, I'd say what's also rough, we're going to move on to another NFC East team. Although this makes me very, very happy to say, the Philadelphia Eagles hosted the Denver Broncos, and the Broncos handed the Eagles their first L of the season, 21-17. So I'm going to try and not be an Eagles hater too much in this. It's just, this is when the haters have arrived today, this week. The haters are here to feast on the Eagles and their loss. But in all seriousness, the Eagles, I mean, they played solid-ish for the first half. It's been this whole season, they've basically been a team of playing only halves or quarters of football. They've never been able to play a full 60 minutes, especially on offense. In this game, they're kind of dominating the Broncos throughout the first half. They were up. They were only up 10-7 by halftime, but they were up 17. They scored another touchdown to go up 17-3. I said 10-7. Now they're up 10-3 at halftime. And they're up 17-3 by the third quarter, even going into the fourth quarter. And it was just like Broncos offense could do nothing that game. Like they were just completely stymied through three quarters. And then the first thing that happened was that the Eagles, as I said in my recap last week, A.J. Brown had been disgruntled with his lack of production through the first 4 weeks. And then it also got revealed that, so I don't know if how much of it was true or not, but it was reported that Devontae Smith was also disgruntled with his use. So the Eagles clearly went for more of a pass-heavy offense in this game. They threw the ball a lot, especially to Devontae Smith. He had a good game, all things considered. He had 8 catches, 114 yards. A.J. Brown, not so much. He was still kind of but problem was this was at the expense of the run game. Like they basically just did nothing with Saquon Barkley through most of this game. Like he was pretty quiet. I mean, Saquon as a whole has been having a pretty down year for his standards, and really just overall, he's been quiet. And I know the Eagles. I think their offensive line's dealing with injuries, and then they're also not performing nearly as well as they had been before, especially compared to last year. But even still, it's Saquon Barkley. He had to suffer in the Giants for years. He knows bad offensive lines, and he can still perform well. And in the second half and really the fourth quarter, the Eagles spent 3 straight drives of not running the ball ever. They just passed the ball every single time and went 3 and out every single time. And that really killed their momentum. And forced the defense to go out and sustain long drives, which they just started to not be able to do. And it really started to show. The Broncos put up 18 straight points in the fourth quarter. The Eagles defense just folded, and the offense could do basically nothing to, get back into it. The Eagles were able to, they had one drive at the end of the game where they were able to at least get a Hail Mary off into the end zone. And A.J. Brown decided to play defense on Devontae Smith and basically just stuck his hands in Devontae Smith's face, who was about to catch the Hail Mary, and instead they dropped it. I know Eagles fans are going to complain about the non-pass interference call on Dallas Goedert the play before, and there's certainly a case to be made. I mean, it was pretty ticky-tacky, and I, as an Eagles hater, I certainly agree with the no call, but it was iffy at best. And that's not to also say that the Eagles certainly benefited from a lot of calls in this game regardless. Like the Broncos got more penalties called on them for significantly more yards, and the Eagles fans are still gonna, moan on Twitter about refs, which is just like you're just wrong, to say the least. They lost the game because their offensive coordinator has no idea how to call a football game, and yeah, I mean there's other issues, but that's like one of the big ones. Is like their offensive play calling is so unbelievably bad. But anyway, the Eagles fall to 4-1. Broncos advance to 3-2. Eagles are going on a short week to play New York against the Giants, and so I mean I don't think the Eagles are going to unravel anytime soon because they go Giants, Viking, Giants, bye for the next 4 weeks. But it's for us Eagles haters who have been saying that they're getting kind of lucky and they're like really playing poor football. We finally got evidence of that, and like they finally don't get away with a win that they probably shouldn't have won, which makes me very happy. But anyway, the next up, the Miami Dolphins going into Carolina to take on the Panthers, and this is one kind of also a tale of two halves where the first half was kind of all Miami for the most part, I'd say. It was one where Carolina didn't look very good, to say the least. Bryce Young had a couple pretty bad plays, pretty bad turnover. And the Dolphins look pretty solid, well, all things considered. Darren Waller's having at least so far in the 2 games he's played, a career resurgence. And Tua looked pretty solid. Defense was holding well. And then the second half came, and the Panthers just started storming back. And they actually won the game 27-24. There wasn't really like a key moment where like a big game changing play or whatnot. It was just kind of a shootout going back and forth. And the Panthers played gritty. They played hard, and they came back and won. Rico Dowdle, not Dowdo. Rico Dowdle, who was filling in for the injured Chuba Hubbard for the Panthers. He had a monster game, 23 carries, 206 yards, and a touchdown. Yeah, which is is pretty good to say the least. So he kind of put the Panthers on his back. That's not to say Bryce had a horrible game. He was certainly performing better as the game went on. Xavier Legette caught a touchdown pass, so he didn't have a bad game for once, which I think he's certainly happy about. Ted McMillan still looks pretty good. And for the Panthers, I mean, they gotta learn how to not suck for like a half of a game. But I mean, hey, it was a gritty win, and they have something here to build off of. They have, they could, with Rico Dowdle's performance, you could kind of lean on him more. Take some of the stress off of Bryce Young, and try and string a win together or two. It's the Dolphins, but like it's any given Sunday. You could try and make something out of nothing, I'd say. As for the Dolphins. Yeah, I mean, they won against the Jets last week, but it's the Jets. So again, I don't know how much I can really praise them. It was just, it was pretty bad, to say the least. I don't know how much longer Mike McDaniel is going to last as a head coach, because, you're blowing leads to the Panthers. It's not good, to say the least. Yeah, it's unless the Dolphins like really find some kind of new gear to like put their offense and really defense into, I suspect Mike McDaniel's going to be gone by like Thanksgiving. I don't have any confidence in the Dolphins whatsoever right now. So next up, I believe the last of the early afternoon games, the Houston Texans going into Baltimore. By the way, the Panthers are 2-3 now. Dolphins are 1-4. Texans went into Baltimore. Baltimore, who was both teams actually were 1-3 going into this, which I don't think anyone was predicting by the start of the season. And so, okay, so first off, the final score was 44-10 in favor of the Texans. It was a complete shutout, or not shutout, a complete blowout all the way through. This was not competitive in the slightest. So I do want to focus on the Ravens first here because it's important to know a little bit of context. So the Ravens going into this were without Lamar Jackson, Kyle Hamilton, Roquan Smith, Ronnie Stanley, Patrick Ricard, and Marlon Humphrey, along with Nnamdi Madubuike, who's now out for the season. And I don't think this is all of the injuries as well. Those are like the main guys. It was something like $162 million of their cap space was out in terms of players injured in this game. So, which is not good to say the least. It's like all of your defensive playmakers, your two-time MVP quarterback, and one of your locker room leaders at fullback, all gone. With that being said, the Ravens still look terrible, to say the least. They still have Derrick Henry. Why they didn't use him more, I don't really know. Because they have Cooper Rush as their backup. Apparently he looked terrible in the preseason. They kept him anyway, and he looked terrible in this game as well. I know they have Tyler Huntley on their practice squad. I would have to think Huntley's better than Cooper Rush at this point in their careers. Because at least Huntley knows the system better. And like he did win a Pro Bowl when he was with the Ravens back in what was like 2023 or 2022. Yeah, I don't know. Like it's hard to say because there are so many injuries, but at the same time they look so bad. Like they're 1-4 and for kind of a good reason. Like I get their schedule was terrible, but they haven't looked great outside of the Buffalo game for like 90% of it. They just have not looked like a very good football team so far. And I get that the injuries suck, and they've been dealing with so many injuries, and it like especially to key players, and that is not helpful in the slightest. But like, especially on the defensive side of the ball, they've looked awful this year, and now the offense is also looking terrible. Yeah, it's real bad for the Ravens here. I don't know how much longer Lamar is going to be out. I think it's like 1 or 2 weeks, but like I don't know how many of these guys are going to be out for long term. And with that kind of question looming over them, I don't know how I mean the Ravens have dug themselves into a pretty deep hole. I don't know how they can get out of this. I don't know if I'd say it's starting to get to panic time in Baltimore, I'd say. It's not looking good so far. As for the Texans, great win. I mean, again, it's an injury-riddled Ravens team, so take it with a grain of salt. But at the same time, they played very solid overall. The offense especially is really starting to click again. The defense, I don't think was ever really a question for the Texans. It's been solid for the past, like really solid for the past couple of years, ever since DeMeco Ryans took over. It was just that this offense had been, under a bit of scrutiny over the past few weeks, but it looked really good this week. And again, it's against honestly, one of the worst defenses in football, missing a lot of their key players. But it's still, you still got to show up, you still got to perform, and the Texans performed very, very well. So, hey, a win's a win, and they look good doing it. So, can't really complain there for the Texans. So, after that, we can go to the Commanders, because they were actually they actually don't have a 1 o'clock game until December, which is crazy. They're basically on Sunday Night Football, Monday Night Football, or at the 4:25 time slot for the next 6 weeks. This week they went into LA to take on the Chargers, and it was one I was a little worried about. Jaden Daniels was returning, but the Chargers they're coming off their first loss of the season against the Giants, and they had played really well in the first 3 weeks. So, I was a little worried because the Commanders obviously looked terrible last week defensively, and Justin Herbert is a very good quarterback. And through the first quarter and a half, I was not having fun, to say the least. Mikey Sainristil, who I've been kind of critical of so far in the season, he has not been having his best performance so far. He jumped off sides on a 4th and 5 field goal on that 20-yard line and gave the Chargers a new set of downs on their first drive, which then led to a touchdown. The Commanders went 3 and out after that. The Chargers marched down the field, scored a field goal, make it 10-0. Commanders went 3 and out again. And then the second quarter rolled around and the Chargers were marching down again. And it just seemed like everything was going wrong. It was like the defense was just looking terrible. They couldn't cover anything. They couldn't get to the quarterback. And the offense was just not able to get into gear. But then Quan Martin was able to basically just level Quentin Johnston and knock the ball out of him. It was a little bit of a helmet-to-helmet contact, I will certainly agree. But it wasn't like, like directly helmet to helmet. It was more like Martin's helmet kind of scraped Johnston's face mask as he went for the ball, and he dislodged the football, got the fumble, and that really changed the game just completely. Because the offense was able to get back on the field for Washington, and Jaden was finally able to get into his groove. He started completing some pretty good passes. And as they marched down the field, they also started feeding Bill Krosky-Merritt a lot more. Bill had an amazing game this past Sunday. 14 carries, 111 yards, and 2 touchdowns. He was looking really good. And it was just something clicked for whatever it was. Something just clicked for the team on both sides of the ball, but especially on the offense. And it was like the team just completely turned things around. They were firing on all cylinders. Jaden looked really good after that, and the Chargers started to really struggle. They didn't have Joe Alt coming into this game. He got injured last week against the Giants. And so without him or Rashawn Slater, their offensive line just completely fell apart. The Commanders' pass rush after the first couple drives started to really feast, and Herbert was having just a nightmare behind his O-line. It was just once the second quarter started rolling around and the Commanders started, finding their groove on offense, it was just all over. Like they were just completely they shut out the Chargers after that first quarter. They put up 27 unanswered points after that. It was just complete rout after that. Jaden had this one throw to Luke McCaffrey at the end of the first half where after a punt by Tress Way that was returned for a touchdown by Ladd McConkey, but was called back due to roughing the punter. Jaden threw I think yardage wise, it was like 58 or 59 yards, but like in the air, it was like, it was just this insane long bomb pass, like from like completely flat footed. Like he didn't even really step into it. He just chucked up this perfect moon ball to Luke McCaffrey. That was like one of the greatest throws I've ever seen. It was so good. It was insane. And it was just like, I watched that and it was like, oh yeah, Jaden's back. He's back. And then like in the second half, there was a run that Bill broke, and Jaden was literally like, he was full sprint, like leading the block for Bill on the sideline. And there's a picture of him, like he is like pearly whites grinning, like as running next to Bill. And it's like everyone in Washington is screaming, Jaden, what are you doing? Do not do that. We need you to stay healthy. You do not need to do this. But like this dude is an absolute psychopath on the field. Like he is, it's just ridiculous what Jaden Daniels does. Like he in the fourth quarter, they're already up by like 10 with like a minute and a half left on like a 4th and goal, and he chucks he's like scrambling backwards on his back foot, getting pressured by 2 different Chargers, throws up this perfect like back shoulder like pass to Debo in the end zone. Like, who does this? Like, what? And Tom Brady was on the call for this game, and he was just in disbelief. Like, it was so just like, oh my god, I love watching Jane Daniels play football. He's so much fun. It was just ridiculous. And the Commanders are going this Monday to play against the Bears. And it's, last time they played the Bears, it was the Hail Mary. So, I'm rubbing my hands together. Something's gonna go down this Monday. I'm looking forward to it. I mean, I'm a little worried because the Bears look a lot better than they did last year at this point. But like, oh man, Jaden Daniels, he knows what to do. He's kind of crazy, in the best way possible. Anyway, I should not babble on too much about Jaden, or else this would go like 5 hours. Anyway, so the Tennessee Titans, we'll go on to that. I should also say Commanders are 3-2, Chargers are 3-2 after that game. Tennessee Titans, Arizona Cardinals game is next after I take a sip of water here real quick. And this is one where the winless Titans were going into Arizona to take on the 2-2 Cardinals. This game was kind of weird, to say the least. Just a little weird. I mean, it started out kind of normal. The Cardinals went up big early, and it looked like they were just kind of control the game. But it's been a kind of a staple of the Jonathan Gannon-led Cardinals, where they just completely they get a lead and then just play uber conservative after that. And the Titans started getting back into the game. But there was one play to start. There are two absolutely insane plays in this game. The first was Amari DiMercato. Coming into the season, he was, I think, the third string running back. He's now, right now he's the first string because James Conner, and then also James Conner's out for the season, and then Trey Benson, who was the second string, he's on IR for like 4 to 6 weeks. So DiMercato got the start, and he broke off like a 70-plus yard run. Looked to be a touchdown, surefire touchdown. He was getting chased by L'Jarius Sneed, who has been, I don't know what happened to him when he got to Tennessee, but there was that. He's not looked great in Tennessee, but Sneed was catching up to him. DiMercato started jogging towards the end zone, and I don't even think Sneed did anything. I don't even know if even if his presence did anything, but DiMercato, like Adonai Mitchell last week, fumbled the ball before he got into the end zone, which then went out of the end zone for a touchback. He pulled a Deshaun Jackson. How? How? It happened last week. How do you do that? It is the cardinal sin of playing football. You do not celebrate early. You do not fumble the ball before you, don't let go of the football before you get into the end zone. It's so simple. I'm trying so hard to not curse. I'm trying to keep this, clean, keep this PG. I don't understand how you fumble the ball. It's so insane. And it was one where it probably would have put the game away. It was ridiculous. But anyway, it didn't happen. The Cardinals were still up. They still certainly had a chance to win this game. And there was at one point in the fourth quarter, Cam Ward and the Titans offense was driving towards the red zone. They were in the red zone, and then Cam Ward threw an interception. It was a good play by the DB for Arizona. I don't know his name. I don't remember his name. But he caught it, fell down basically because he had to jump up in the air, got up, and almost immediately lost the football because of it. Which was then picked up by a Titans player who then ran it in the end zone for a touchdown. So that was not ideal, to say the least. The ye old interception turned into touchdown for the opposing team is not what you want to see, to say the least. And it was kind of a summary of the Cardinals, really their whole organization's history. They looked good for a little bit, and then they fumbled away for a touchdown for the opposing team. The Cardinals lost this game 22-21, which is not good, to say the least. Cam Ward gets his first win as a professional. Brian Callahan gets his first win of the season. And this is kind of one where no one really wins, because I think every single Titans fan wants Brian Callahan gone because he's terrible. And a win I'm going to say it's fluky. Good on the Titans. They played really hard this game. They played well. Or they played gritty, I'd say. And they got lucky with some of the some boneheaded mistakes by Arizona. But they got the win. It doesn't really help their season in the long run, I'd say, because I don't think they're going to be making the playoffs. And they're probably keeping Brian Callahan around for another couple weeks because of it, which is not ideal. As for the Cardinals, it's about as embarrassing as a loss as you can get, to say the least. It was not good, to say the least. Say not ideal. The Cardinals are 2-3, Titans 1-4. I don't know how much longer Jonathan Gannon's going to be here, if this is how his team's going to play, because losing to the Titans like this is pretty bad. I don't really know how many more ways I can just say it. It's bad. I don't think you really want to be losing these type of games. And, it's for a coaching staff that has not proven much in its tenure. It's just another black eye on just a series of black eyes that, aren't getting better. I don't know if he gets fired in season, but, unless things start getting better, I wouldn't be super surprised to see Gannon out at the end of the season because, this was really bad. So now the last of the afternoon games was an absolute delight of a game that I wish I could have seen, more of because I was watching the Commanders-Chargers game and then Red Zone. But this is the Buccaneers going into Seattle. Both of them 3-1. And this was just an absolute shootout on both sides. The Buccaneers won 38-35 and just like an absolute air show. Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold were just going absolutely ham. And it was a battle between them and also a battle between the Ohio State first round pick wide receivers and Emeka Egbuka for Tampa Bay and then Jackson Smith and Jigba for Seattle. Both of them were just going absolutely insane. And like they could not be guarded. And it's just one of those where it's like football is so much fun when you watch this because it's so much fun watching good offenses just go to town. And especially when you get two offenses, like good offenses going against each other, it's just one of those heavyweight bouts where they're just trading blows back and forth. And it's so enjoyable to watch because it's so good. This is what football should be. I'd say it was just really fun. This is also the battle of the throwback unis because the Bucks and the Seahawks were both expansion teams that came into the league I believe at the same time, and I think it was like 50th anniversary or something. It might not be actually, but it's like it's they're celebrating their shared history together. And then they both wore throwback uniforms to their first season. For the Bucks creamsicles, I don't know if I'm the biggest fan of them. They don't look bad, but I'm not the biggest fan of the world of those uniforms. The Seahawks old uniforms, though, I don't know if they have a name or not, but like I don't really know what shade of blue it is, but like the blue, the silver, and the green combination, that's like one of my favorite uniform combinations in football right now. It looks so good. In the end, the creamsicles won, but when you got a uniform like that, you're already winning one kind of battle. but anyway, I can't really say too much about this game other than it was just a really fun, offensive shootout. I think both teams are making the playoffs with how they're playing this year. It was just one where just one team had to win, or it was more like one team had to lose because they both were playing really well. And I would love to see this kind of game again in the playoffs because this was just it's one of those games where it's just this is just really fun to watch. And it's neither team really made a ton of mistakes. It was just good offensive schemes beating defensive schemes and, just good players playing good football. And, can't really complain too much about that. Next up, I actually forgot about an afternoon game, and it was kind of forgettable, so, that's kind of why. The Lions going into Cincinnati to take on the Joe Burrow-less Bengals. And so the Lions won 37-24, but don't really let the final score fool you. This game was all Lions all the way. They basically just kind of played 3 quarters of football and then just kind of let the Bengals do what they wanted in the fourth because this game was over by halftime, basically. Even if it was the score was not super high. It was only 14-3, but the Lions were in complete control. And they really pulled away in the third quarter. Every single player on their offense was just having a good game. The Bengals defense just could not stop anything. And their offense up to that point was just horrible. Jake Browning threw 3 interceptions. There was a stat line where it said Jamar Chase had 4 targets on the day at that point and 3 tackles because he had to tackle the defender who intercepted the pass intended for him 3 times, which is not good, to say the least. And eventually, though, in the fourth quarter, Jamar Chase and Jake Browning actually did link up, and Jamar Chase actually had a pretty good game stat wise. Like he kind of popped off, but like it was just way too late to really do anything. Like there was a sliver of a chance where the Bengals could have done something, but then they got sacked for a safety, and that just kind of like threw everything away, out the window. Yeah, it was just one where the Lions were the completely better team. They looked very solid on both sides of the ball. I think the only problem for them is that Terrion Arnold's going to be out for a little while. Maybe the season, maybe not. Don't know for sure, but it sucks for them. But I mean, overall, the Lions just looked really solid on all levels, and the Bengals did not, to say the least. And one thing to touch on in recent developing news. Joe Flacco, the quarterback for the Browns, has actually been traded to the Bengals for a late round pick swap. Do I think he's starting right away? I'm not 100% sure. I think he probably will because there's a lot of time. But I definitely think he's going to be starting by at least week 7 because I think it's the idea for them is that they're sure that Joe Burrow is probably going to come back sometime in December-ish, I would assume, for the end of the season. And they just need someone to not throw 50 billion interceptions like Jake Browning has. And Flacco, while he certainly turned the ball over on occasion, he's not nearly as erratic with the football as Jake Browning has been this season. So I don't mind the move at all. My issue with it is that Flacco is a statue in the pocket, and the Bengals O-line is awful. So I think he's going to get just destroyed behind that line. But I don't think he's going to be as reckless with the football as Jake Browning was. And I don't know if it's going to actually work for the Bengals. But, it's interesting. Flacco's got now 3 of 4 stops in the AFC North, only missing Pittsburgh. So it was weird seeing Flacco in a Browns jersey, and it's going to be weird seeing him in a Bengals jersey. Give me one sec to take another sip of water. And I think that's all I can say about that. But another trade that I forgot to mention earlier is that the Ravens are trading away Odafe Oweh, who I believe is a former first-round pick at a edge linebacker pass rusher, basically. They traded him and a draft pick to the Chargers for another draft pick and a safety whose name I do not remember. But it's like late round pick swaps, basically, along with the player trade. And I can definitely see what the Ravens are going for here because they have a really depleted secondary at the moment with injuries. And so just getting a body to fill in there, basically, and trading away Oweh, who I think he never really seemed to fit in the Ravens system. Like, it seemed like they were always trying to find a way to get him working, and he just never seemed to be able to take that next step as a pass rusher. And so we'll see how it works in Los Angeles. I know the Chargers definitely need a pass rusher. Because they're like really lacking in that department. And we'll see if going from one Harbaugh to another for Oweh will unlock some of his potential. Yes, but an interesting trade there for the Ravens. They also signed C.J. Gardner-Johnson to their practice squad earlier. So again, it's another body to fill, another veteran they can have. I don't know if I'm assuming he's going to play at some point, but I don't know how long he's going to last because he did not look good so far this season. And he didn't really look great last season either. But anyway, that's that for free agency. Well, not free agency, transaction news. Back to the games. Sunday night, for the second to last game, the New England Patriots went into Buffalo to take on the Bills in a high stakes division matchup. And in a result that not a lot of people were expecting, the Patriots actually defeated the Bills, who at this point were undefeated, by a score of 23-20. And the Bills hadn't certainly been playing their best the past few weeks, but still, it's pretty surprising that they lost to the Patriots because they dominated them over the past few years. Drake May looked pretty good in this game. Stephon Diggs was going insane in this game. His nothing motivates a guy more in sports than hatred and spite. And Stefan Diggs was pretty much running on pure spite in this game, and it was a blast to watch because he was looking like prime Stefan Diggs, and it was kind of insane. Drake May looked really solid. He was making some pretty good throws, some pretty good plays altogether. He had one like stiff arm like fadeaway throw, I can basically say, that was like looked a little like Josh Allen. And I mean, the Bills were okay. They didn't really play great. They're really slow start for them, especially on offense. So I mean, I don't think the Bills are in any trouble because division games are always, they're always a little different. But yeah, it's still like the Patriots could be more back than I think we thought. They've looked a lot better over the past few weeks than they had, at the start of the season. And it's like when they're not turning the ball over, basically, constantly like they did against Pittsburgh, they're actually not playing bad. They're playing a lot more disciplined in this game than they had been in the first couple of weeks. The Bills were actually the ones that were really sloppy, like penalty-wise. Like they just could not get out of their own way. Whereas the Patriots were playing a lot more disciplined. So, it's taken a couple weeks, but I think the Vrabel system is starting to put in some work. I still question their decision to just not play Travion Henderson all that much, especially with all the fumbles they have at running back, mainly Ramondre Stevenson. Also, F's in the chat for Gibby. Antonio Gibson tore his ACL on a kickoff return. Gibson was a former Washington football team man, more than a Washington Commanders running back, so I have a soft spot for him. But yeah, he's Patriots running back. He was their second stringer. I would assume we see more Travion Henderson now with Gibson out, but who knows? They've like barely played him for some reason. But yeah, there was that. Either way, it's a pretty good win for the Patriots here, defeating their division rival who was undefeated. So yeah, I mean, if the Patriots can look more like this as the season goes on, they could sneak into a playoff spot with how open the season is right now. They're 3-2. Bills are 4-1. Yeah, this could be interesting to see for the Patriots. And as for the Bills, I mean, they just got to find a way to bounce back and just play a bit more solid on offense early on in games. So let me take one more drink of water before I get to the Monday night game. So the Monday night game was the 2-2 Kansas City Chiefs going into Jacksonville to take on the 3-1 Jacksonville Jaguars. And this was one where it was pretty close throughout the whole game. And Jacksonville actually won 31-28. It was one where it certainly didn't look like they were going to win especially in the second half. There were a couple plays. And I'm going to, complain about the refs here a little bit against Kansas City. I know Kansas City fans will, rile up their own things about, the refs not calling things blah, 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 blah against them or whatever. But there were two big plays in this game where basically the Chiefs on one of their drives in the red zone, they basically got away with a pick play that, is in the dubious where it's like you can run a pick where it's 1 or 2 yards off of the line of scrimmage and it will be legal. It was kind of more like 2 or 3 yards and probably should have been called. They scored a touchdown off that play. And then later on, when Jags were up and had the ball, although they were on their own 12-yard line, Trevor Lawrence threw an interception basically right to Trent McDuffie. I think it was Trent McDuffie, one of the Chiefs DBs. And, everyone was like, oh, Trevor, you're throwing a terrible interception again. But as it turns out, the Chiefs, it was basically 2 Jacksonville wide receivers lined up against 2 Chiefs DBs. And they tried to run like a crossing route or like a mesh route or whatever. I don't know, try and get to, cross over each other. And the DBs responded, and one of them basically just ran right into one of the Jags wide receivers and knocked him down. And that was who Trevor Lawrence was trying to throw it to, which I don't really think you're supposed to be doing. I think it's kind of what they call illegal contact because, if you could always just knock the receiver on his butt, I think every defender would do that because, They didn't even call it. They didn't really take the time to review it. And yeah, it was pretty rough. The Chiefs would also score a touchdown 2 plays later. However, the Jags hung into this game and came back. The Jags were down late in the game, but they're in the red zone. Trevor Lawrence from like the 2 yard line took the ball, stumbled, tried to get up, stumbled again, got up, and then ran in for a touchdown, which was just crazy to say the least. Chris Jones giving the most maximum effort possible, looking exactly like Albert Hainsworth in the Monday Night Massacre. If you know, you know. But Chris Jones has looked pretty bad so far this season. And the Chiefs lost in a game where they probably should have won, given how their offense actually looked pretty solid. But I mean, the defense didn't look great in this game, and Jacksonville, they're 4-1. They look pretty solid. Their one loss for some reason coming to the Jake Browning-led Bengals after he threw 3 interceptions. I don't really know how, but I mean, it's surprising. I mean, this is also one where the Jags leaned on their passing attack a lot more, which they hadn't done so far. It had been a lot of the Travis Etienne show. But like, if this Jags offense can, find more of a balance and, get Trevor Lawrence and this passing attack coordinated more, they could look pretty solid. I'm actually looking forward to seeing how this Jags team plays because their defense has also been playing pretty well. Devin Lloyd, especially for the Jags, has been having an insane few weeks. He had a pick 6 in this game and like looking like James Harrison, basically, with like a 99-yard pick 6 pretty much. And yeah, this should, I wouldn't count out Jacksonville here whatsoever. I think I obviously wouldn't count them out because they're 4-1, but like, I could definitely see them making the playoffs here. I think they're pretty good. As for the Chiefs, they're 2-3. Again, I don't think it's panic time yet because I think Mahomes has looked better over the past few weeks. But also, like, they're losing games they've been winning over the past few years. So it's a little, I don't know. We'll see. So that's it for the Week 3 slate of games. Before I wrap up, I'm going to quickly go over my my early season award frontrunners. So some of these were easy in my mind. Some of these were tough. So my early season MVP, again, I think this one is a little tough. I'm giving it to Baker Mayfield because he's looked incredible so far this season. Like he again, career revival that he's had over the past few years, and he's looked. This has been without Mike Evans for much of the season, and Chris Godwin rehabbing. He does have Emeka Egbuka, who's been playing out of his mind, and I'll get to him in a sec. But Baker Mayfield looks really good so far, and I think like just with like how good he's been playing as a quarterback, he's my MVP right now through 5 weeks. Offensive Player of the Year, Jonathan Taylor. I said in the Colts recap he's leading the NFL in rushing. He's looking like his 2021 self. And, I mean, he had a really good season last year. Like, he had 1,400 rushing yards or something like that. It was just kind of overshadowed by, Saquon Barkley breaking 2,000 yards, Derrick Henry having, like, 1,700 or whatever. So, like, it's unfortunate for him that he rushes for 1,400 yards in a season where that's, like, 4th or 5th best. But right now he's looking really, really good on a Colts team that's been playing very well. So yeah, he's my early offensive player of the year. My defensive player of the year is Nick Bonito, to quote That's Good Sports, Brendan Perna, who's a big Broncos fan, a YouTuber that I follow, and he loves Nick Bonito. That's what he always says. But Nick Bonito, he leads the league in sacks with 7 already. There's like 2 more than the next leading player or something like that. And he had a really good season last year. He's having an even better season this year. And on a Broncos defense that already has Pat Surtain. So yeah, Bonito's been just playing out of his mind so far. And, it's sacks alone, I don't think should determine defensive player of the year. But, overall, he's just been an absolutely dominant force in these first 5 weeks of the season. My offensive rookie of the year, I don't think should be too much of a surprise if you heard me, especially this week. It is Emeka Egbuka. he's been just absolutely insane. I mean, he comes from wide receiver factory that is Ohio State. Like that and LSU are like just you draft a wide receiver from there, you're probably doing something right because they just print wide receivers like money. With Ibuka being the latest $100 bill, he's been so good so far, and filling right into a role. I think a lot of people were skeptical. I certainly was when he got drafted because going into a situation with Mike Evans and Chris Godwin already, but I mean, we weren't really counting on Mike Evans to get injured this early in the season and Godwin to still take a while to ramp up from his injury. So that wide receiver one spot has been pretty open so far in this early part of the season, and Ibuka has taken it and ran with it. He's been just absolutely fantastic so far. My defensive rookie of the year, this one was definitely one where I was just kind of like, I kind of shrugged my shoulders here. This is one where you could go with probably 5 different guys. I went with Carson Schweschinger from Cleveland, just because I think like I'm not the most well versed in his game, but I know like overall he's been playing really well. You could also go with someone like Jihad Campbell for the Eagles. I know he's having a really good start to the season. And blanking on who it was, but there's like other Abdul Carter. I know he's having a pretty solid start. Mason Graham as well. I wouldn't put Travis Hunter in there yet. He had a really good game this past week on Monday, but that was more both sides rather than one or the other. But yeah, it was overall, I think defensive player of the year is still very, very wide open at the moment. My vote is Schweschinger, something like that. I don't know. There's a lot of S's and C's and H's in there. But yeah, he's currently my vote, mostly because I don't want to give it to an Eagle because I'm a hater. But yeah, I think it probably is like, I mean, I think Jihad Campbell certainly has a shot if you were to end it right now to win defensive rookie of the year, but this is also week 5. There's still plenty of more time to go. Lastly, my coach of the year is Shane Steichen. This one I think is probably between Steichen, Liam Cohen, and Kyle Shanahan at the moment. I'm giving the edge to Steichen just because of how bad the Colts have been over the past few years, and just how like uninspired they were going into the season. Going in with I don't want to beat on this dead horse. I don't want to beat on this dead Colt, you could say, of the Colts going in with like low expectations with a bad quarterback room and surprising everyone with how well they've been playing. I did kind of just restate it, but like again, that's going to be that's what I'm saying. That's been the thing. That's what everyone expected, and it's impressive to see how well the Colts have been playing so far this season, and I think that's why Steichen should be the front runner for Coach of the Year right now, just because of like the situation he had going into the season compared to how well he's playing or how well the team is playing so far through 5 weeks. You can say a similar thing to Liam Cohen, although that's more like he's a first-year head coach with a Jags team that was terrible last year, and they're succeeding so far this year. And then Kyle Shanahan, he's also 4-1, and he's keeping his team in the hunt with so many injuries. But again, I think it changed Steichen, but this could also change in like 3 weeks. That's why this is just through 5 weeks. Those are my thoughts on who are the front runners. But yeah, that's all I have for this week. It was just an absolute crazy week of football. I think next week's probably going to be just as crazy with how this season's going. I think hopefully if I feel better, I'm going to do an episode this weekend. I think I'm going to do my Fire Emblem Three Houses story recap. And that's going to be like a full story spoiler on like all the story events, or at least most of them I think I'm going to try and cover. Because of Shadow or Fortune's Weave announcement back at the Nintendo Direct a few weeks ago. I think that's what I'm going to do. We'll see how I'm feeling. If I don't, for whatever reason, obviously next week's going to be the Week 6 recap for the NFL. But, hopefully it's been a couple weeks since I've been able to do 2 episodes per week. I want to do 2 episodes per week, so hopefully I can get back to it. For now, though, thank you very much for listening, and I hope you tune in again.